Hello, I'm Nelson Paule, and I will be discussing the communication media use in development work and the advantages and limitations of certain media, both focusing on publications, as indicated in the DEVC 206, Design and Production of Print and Radio DevCom Materials of the University of the Philippines, Open University. Before I proceed with my presentation, this is a continuation of the same section after the explanation on the object media and presentation media. For continuity purposes, I'll just briefly discuss in summary the object and presentation media. Let's start with the object media first. Object media refers to the media which can be manipulated, examined, felt, or used by other senses. These are real objects, specimens, replicas, mock-ups, models, and dioramas. Meanwhile, presentation media refers to the media to which the intended audience is exposed to through their sight, hearing, or both. This type of media can be classified into three categories: spatial, temporal,
Big one, ika-clarify natin muna, hindi siya scientific term. Ang big one ay para i-describe yung
and both media with spatial and temporal classification. To put it simply, spatial refers to where, while temporal is focused on the when. It is a space or location, and time or duration aspects of a something. With that said, let's move on to the next topic. To start with, let me define first what are the usual characteristics of a publication. Dr. Maria Celeste Habito Cadiz had presented a classification list on the commonly used media in development work in her book, Educational Communication for Development, Basic Concepts, Theories, and Know-how. And in general, a publication has three distinct characteristics. 1. It is physically printed or digitally posted. It contains information such as news, reports, entertainment, pictures, and illustrations. It is distributed to an audience. This remains true to all types of publications that I will be listing in a while. Publications can generally be classified into periodicals and non-periodicals, distinguishable in its frequency and time of publication. As such, publications such as newspapers, magazines, newsletters, and journals are examples of periodicals because it is published regularly or within stated intervals. To illustrate this further, in terms of publication frequency, a newspaper can be printed daily or weekly, while a comprehensive manual or how-to can only be published once unless there are new information or if there's a need for an update. As for the time of publication, some publishes an annual magazine at the start of every year. This is to showcase accomplishments, while a pamphlet can be created whenever within the calendar year or when the need arises for it. It could also be distinguished by structure, layout, and content. So let's start with the layout similarities first. All four periodicals can have the similar layout in its cover and inside pages. It should have any of the following: title of the publication, the author or publication house, dates, pictures, text, columns, page numbers, byline, lead, and caption. And as for the content, the newspaper has the recent news, opinions on current events, features, ads. A newsletter has a manuscript report of current happenings. A magazine contains specials, descriptive articles, stories, poems, photos, etc. And a journal has news, proceedings, transactions, and reports of the usual work conducted. This is usually in technical in nature and usually in treatment too. Now let's move on to the non-periodicals. Non-periodicals are publications that are not constrained to a schedule but are only published for a particular purpose. The example of these are books, pamphlets, monographs, leaflets, booklet, manual, fact sheet, and a photo novel. And unlike the previously discussed classification, the structure and layout of non-periodicals varies from book type to a folded paper, from multiple pages to a single page. Even the content is different from one another. For example, a single specific topic can be explained in many forms. It can be through a multiple page, or even a small booklet, a monograph, or a trifold pamphlet, or a single fact sheet. Another example is a procedure on how to use a camera can be read extensively on a manual, like this, or can be illustrated on a leaflet, or can be drawn to a comic. To conclude, this only shows that the application for these types of non-periodical publications is dependent on the purpose and the method on how we would like to communicate with an audience. Also, there are other publications such as proceeding papers, annual reports, and scientific articles, but they don't fall under these two broad categories. That completes the Module 1's communication media use and development. Let's proceed to the advantages and limitations of certain media. Continuing on the advantages and limitations of certain media, in this video presentation, I am only going to discuss what the publication media can and can't do. Since I have explained the types, characteristics, and structures of a publication, it is appropriate now to discuss its pros and cons. One of the advantages of publication is the availability and convenience. It is the ability of a publication to be read and studied at the leisure of the reader. Another one is a publication can also be passed down, meaning someone had finished reading it, then it was given to another person to be read, then so on and so forth. And also, a publication cannot change its content once published. The only way to correct any errors is to produce new copies. That is why people generally have confidence in the printed page. The disadvantages of publications are 1. Its dependency on the literacy of the reader. If the intended audience does not have the capability to understand or lacks the cognitive comprehension, they may interpret the message poorly or in a different understanding, thus defeating the purpose of communication. 2. Print materials may suit the general audience but may differ for a specific audience and local conditions. 3. Publications are one way. There is no opportunity for feedback and interaction with the author. 4. Printing can be very expensive and resource heavy. And lastly, for revisions and updating, the publication process can be very long, and by the time the process is finished, the content may already have become obsolete. Most of these are applicable to the physical version of publication, but I would also like to add the advantages and disadvantages of digital publications, just to round up all the aspects of publication. Digital publications have the following advantage. 1. It is very cost effective. 2. You can embed other forms of media such as videos, photos, etc. 3. Digital publication have a much wider audience reach across the web. And last, it can instantly publish any information. On the other hand, digital publications have the following disadvantages. Published data can be revised or edited, meaning any information could have been easily changed, hence losing credibility. Digital publications can also be used to spread misinformation and even subjected to biases and influences. To end, let me leave you with two discussion questions. 1. In your opinion and other than what was explained, why is a passed on publication or document important? And 2. Should setting, audience, available resources, and purpose for communication be considered first before choosing any publication type to use? Thank you. This concludes my presentation on communication, media use in development work, and advantages and limitations of certain media. Thank you and stay safe.